2019. You don't need a father. You can just procreate with yourself. Hi, my name is Sydney. Welcome back to my channel. In my adventures of the internet, I found this picture and then subsequently posted it to my Instagram where you guys got very upset about it. I personally was a little bit taken aback by the fact that it just didn't seem like fathers were represented at all on these magazine covers. Which is funny considering the title of the magazine is Parents. Because you know, traditionally parents involved men. Maybe they should rebrand to Parent. Perfect. Some of you also pointed out to me that there seemed to be no black people on these covers either, so I guess there's that too. So because I didn't take the original photo myself, I actually just went and looked up the magazine covers because I wanted to see if what was depicted in the photo I posted was actually the case. And it was. As it turns out, the majority of these covers mostly just featured single mothers with children or just children on their own. I counted about 64 covers, and of those 64, only about 5 actually featured a male and or a nuclear family. Not including the gay couple from the latest feature, because you know, I'm a bigot. 5. From a magazine called Parents. Love it. So I went to their website in search of more fathers. Parents magazine helps mums and dads. Dads? Well, that's a surprise to us all. Here I was thinking in 2019, children were conceived using essential oils. Get with the times, Parents magazine. Fathers died out in the 80s. Sorry, let's continue. So the magazine helps navigate every aspect of parenthood from pregnancy through the school years. We get to the heart of the latest news and recommendations on kids' health, safety, nutrition, behavior, and more to give parents the tools to raise healthy and happy children. So I think by now the bulk of you who have followed me for a little while know that I am not the kind of person who's going to sit here and be like, this is discrimination, because I just don't see the world through that lens anyway. But the reason I am bringing this up and the reason I wanted to make a video about it is because it seems like fathers are becoming less and less important and more obsolete in the modern world, or at least that's how it seems publicly. And when they are being discussed, at least observationally, it seems like we discuss fathers in a pretty negative way, or at least in the way that indicates they're imparting bad values onto their children. I mean, a really recent example of this is the Gillette ad that came out.
Boys will be boys. Boys will be boys. Boys will be boys.
Shut up, Gillette. Nobody even invited you. Sorry, I invited Gillette. Even last week, I found this article. Father of 3, 31, devastated over not seeing his children enough following his marriage breakdown, takes his own life after sneaking out of the hospital. A young father of 3 was so heartbroken by the breakup of his family that he snuck out of a hospital and took his own life. Breeze Montenero, 31, died alone in his flat in Perth on Monday, having not seen his sons, aged 11 and 12, and a 9-year-old daughter since Christmas. He felt like he had lost everything and was living in a nightmare that was never going to end, his grieving mother, Beverly Bell, told Daily Mail Australia. The super sad thing about this is that while this one happened to make the news, this story isn't even remotely uncommon. Even this article says that 60% of male suicides can be traced back to the breakdown of a relationship. I personally always knew that number to be about a quarter of male suicides being linked to parental alienation and relationship breakdown, but regardless if it's 25 or 60%, those numbers are ridiculously high. While on one hand, I think it's super necessary that stories like this make the news, on the other hand, it's really sad to me that a lot of people still don't care about what the justice system does to fathers and what relationship breakdown does to fathers. And there's really no support systems for them out there.
Please disperse! Nothing to see here!
Some of you in Australia might remember back in 2017 and before that, there was the argument put forward that we need to change Father's Day to Special Persons Day.
Let's turn now to the push to rename Father's Day Special Persons Day so children without a dad aren't offended. A growing number of politically correct schools and kindies are embracing the name change, but they're copping a lot of criticism for it. Now, earlier I spoke with Dr. Red Ruby Scarlett, a university academic and convener of the Social Justice in Early Childhood activist group.
I'm just wondering if maybe we could build some sort of, I don't know, feminist compound on Pluto and just send them there.
Well, Red, firstly, thank you very much for your time. Look, what is the argument for having Special Persons Day rather than Father's Day?
Thank you for having me as well. If we think about children's rights and how they get to participate in a community and feel a sense of belonging, sometimes shifting the language around those emotive and important days can be significant and more inclusive than the current way that we describe them.
There's that word, inclusivity. Why don't y'all just sprinkle us with some inclusivity while you alienate half the population? Just love it. Some of you also might remember a series of videos that were released basically titled Happy Father's Day, Mum.
She really is like the most amazing mother, but she was really an incredible father. Like truly incredible.
Happy Father's Day, Mama.
Happy Father's Day, Mom.
Oh, Mom. Happy Father's Day.
This is your last warning, feminists. If you keep acting like this, I will turn this era around and we will go back to the 1950s. Because you know, Mama Sydney don't play. Well, I'm personally really happy seeing people thanking their mum for being their dad. It just goes to show, in a couple years, we can just make babies with ourselves. Even as far back as 1999, a paper published by the American Psychological Association claimed that neither mothers nor fathers are essential to child development, and that responsible fathering can occur within a variety of family structures. The article concludes with alternative recommendations for encouraging responsible fathering that do not discriminate against mothers and diverse family forms. Much as it pains me to say, this is not a new concept. This is not a new idea. When you compound this information with all these new attacks on traditional masculinity or just masculinity in general by calling it toxic and other fun names, it's very, very unsurprising to me that we would start to see fatherhood and fathers begin to be phased out, at least in the public sense. The thing that's really sad and funny at the same time about this is you can legitimately go to Google and type in things like, "Are fathers unnecessary?" and you'll get a bunch of hits and articles that basically talk about how fatherhood is not essential to childhood development. But what's weird is that when you research the same thing in relation to mothers, very little comes up. Unsurprisingly, and also biologically correct, mothers are seen as an integral part of childhood development, because they are. Mothers are the first people who teach you as a young person that it is entirely possible to make someone so angry they contemplate legitimately just putting you in the bin, just in the trash. Go away, child. I am not even kidding. That first time you register that look on your mom's face as like legitimate anger, you know you done goofed. You know that death is imminent. But anyway, contrary to the way that we think about motherhood, the way that a lot of people write about fathers indicates that they are obsolete. 2 years ago, columnist Maureen Dowd of the New York Times drew fire from a variety of people, men and women alike, with her controversial new book asking, "Are men necessary?" It's a valid question. Are men important only for the purpose of procreation? This article in and of itself is fairly supportive of men, but the fact that it legitimately says it is a valid question to ask, are men necessary, is crazy to me. You would just never see that written about women. You would never see the question, are women necessary? And then someone say, that's a valid question. Would never happen. You know what's a better, more valid question? Are you ready? Are you all insane? The only person who's insane here, Sydney, is you. And that's just because you love the patriarchy. You traitor. So I guess the question here for me is, why are fathers being slowly pushed out of the equation? And why are all these loud, screamy, annoying liberal voices seemingly also attacking the nuclear family? Dr. Warren Farrell, who is a wizard, wrote a book called The Boy Crisis and also did a TED Talk that I watched not long ago. And he said some really important things about fatherhood, fathers, and how all of that relates to young boys.
Now here's the key. The big divide is between the welfare of boys in these two groups who have minimal or no father involvement, what I call dad-deprived boys, versus the welfare of boys whose fathers remain significantly involved, what I call dad-enriched boys. There are more than 70 ways I've found in the research for the boy crisis that boys who are dad deprived are in fact deprived. In contrast, boys who are dad enriched do better in school even when they come from poorer areas with lower ranked schools. They have less ADHD and more empathy. Yes, actually, dad involvement leads to an increase in empathy. Dad deprivation, on the other hand, is the greatest predictor of a boy committing suicide or taking drugs. Dad-deprived boys are much more likely to drink excessively, be bullies, to drop out of school, to be alienated, to be rudderless. But now that boys who hurt are hurting us, we're taking note. Dad deprivation is common to 26 out of 27 of the mass shooters who have killed 8 or more people.
So we have an expert here who is not too dissimilar to other experts in the same field who do say that fathers are very important to the behavior, the emotional stability, and the general growth of children. They are the people who inform the way that a lot of children turn out. And also mothers do that too. But fathers do it as well. A lot of people have made the connection between fatherlessness and people growing up to commit serious crimes, or even young people during their adolescence committing serious crimes. In a very simplistic way, these examples legitimately demonstrate to us that fathers are a fairly intrinsic part of the development of a child, which is obviously backed up by a lot of statistical data. So the question remains, why are fathers being pushed out, and why, at least in a public sense, is there this undercurrent that fathers negatively impact their children and negatively impact the people around them? Or, in the very least, why are fathers unnecessary? Fathers used to be viewed as the pillar of the family, the person who was always strong, who could be resilient, who would impart those values on the children, and who could also be the person that everyone could turn to in times of need. Now, it's fairly possible to say that fatherhood is viewed as something fairly negative that can impart toxic masculinity on little boys, and be a predator towards little girls and help them grow up to be daddy's little stripper. Don't yell at me for that one, because sometimes it's true. A lot of people have pointed out that young boys in particular are raised solely by mothers, whether that be at home or in the schooling environment, and a lot of those young people have still turned out to be fairly deviant anyway. Believe it or not, there's some statistical data out there that says overbearing mothers create serial killers and mega criminals. So there's that. No, mums, I am not having a go at you. Please don't yell at me. A bunch of studies conducted in Scandinavia in relation to paid paternal leave for fathers basically said that these fathers, when they stay home with their children, mean that their kids actually perform better in school. These kids end up much more stable, and they actually have better social skills. And obviously, mums are amazing as well. They literally incubate a human. Like, that's a lot. Sydney, it's amazing to me how you don't understand how biology works. Women don't carry and incubate children. That's disgusting. We just clone them from another feminist egg. I don't like the fact that we are heading down this road that basically says that we can always celebrate the achievements and the amazingness of mothers, but we cannot do the same thing for fathers. I don't like the fact that it seems like we don't respect the necessity and the importance of fathers in a child's life. Because, like I said, there is lots of data out there that says it's incredibly important for children to have both a strong male and female figure. The worst thing about this attack on fathers is it just legitimately makes no sense. Fathers have been around since legitimately forever, because last time I checked, it still takes a man and a woman to make a tiny human. So to suddenly start saying that fathers are unnecessary or obsolete is kind of ridiculous. I think this anti-male, anti-father attitude is partially what informs the justice system in the West, which is why we often see fathers having their children taken away from them and the mother automatically assumes care, which is a totally separate issue all on its own. So at least in my humble opinion, I think that fathers are incredibly important to the development of children, but also to the functionality of society in general. And I think that it is very remiss to start suggesting that fathers can simply be replaced by whoever and whatever in the right environment, and kids will turn out perfectly fine. Because it is through my observation that I would say that kids are not turning out perfectly fine with the way that we are slowly eroding the mother and father figures in this society. So while academics and liberals and really loud feminists like to tell us that fathers and masculinity are very much not okay, let me just verify this for a second and tell you that they are. And you know, dads are pretty cool because they're the people that let you eat the ice cream when your mum said no. Among other things, like helping you with your homework and not letting you get eaten by giant Australian spiders. And all that other stuff too, like loving you and imparting good values on you. And those things. Anyway, what do you guys think? Why do you think that there is this attack on masculinity and fathers going on? And do you think that we are really looking towards the destruction of the nuclear family and the general family unit? Let me know in the comments. As always, if you like the video, hit subscribe and the thumbs up button. If you want to leave a comment, feel free to do so, just don't be rude about it. And I will see you guys next time. Sydney, what are you talking about? Women don't incubate and have babies? Ew. They actually just get dropped to us from the supreme leader in the sky, the overlord feminist god.